related advice because you're just trying to make them budget and they're in weekend mode. They're like, I want to go out and buy a Gucci handbag.
No budgeting. I don't care.
Can you hear through that?
I can hear me a little, maybe, or maybe it's just my own voice inside my head.
This.
Hello,
Can you hear
hello.
now?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
I can hear me good. And you good. Luke?
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
I can't. Hold on. Say something. again.
Hello. Am I making bumps on the thing?
Test 1, 2, 3.
Oh yeah, we're all working, but it's just about a matter of getting the headphones to work.
Yeah, excellent.
Okay.
I'm gonna do the Instagram thing now.
It was funny trying to think of non-fitness related questions.
Yeah.
I got some.
I definitely scraped the bottom of the barrel on one. I was like, you know what? I'm probably not going to ask that.
You did your Twitch notification? Hopefully we're on the front page because I wasn't
Yeah.
on the front page for CJ, but I filled in the form.
Hello.
Yeah.
All right. Should we get into this? It was just right. Let me just cleanse my throat a bit more. Oh yeah, there are our waters over there as well, Luke.
I've got my water.
Oh, cool.
All right. Here we are, episode 146. Angus, do you want to move in a bit?
Yes.
Back at the SCG where the South and the Chooks did battle last night.
Watch that.
You watched that?
Yeah.
What did you think? Are you a South man?
I don't really watch much rugby league, but I had to watch that.
Is NRL the intellectually inferior game compared to Union?
Yes.
That's setting me up, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
I think it probably is, but it's still a great game.
I had a mate who worked with an NRL team and then he worked with the Union team.
Yeah.
And he now understands why league players are such idiots because he sees the impact on the GPS they wear. Like some of them measure impact in there. He says the impact from league due to the 10-meter rule is like so much greater than Union.
Yeah.
And like league they're battering, whereas Union sometimes it's more strategic to like get in good plays for a ruck.
That's it. Well, you know what's interesting? I listened to there's some conference that was up on YouTube with Eddie Jones, who's the coach for England, used to coach Australia in rugby union. And he was saying that he learned tons about the tackle and running lines from rugby league. He actually studies it. He reckons you learn tons because they're just so good at it because obviously that's pretty much all you do.
More space, more options.
Yeah, and then he carries that over into union and he's like, they're just so good at that stuff that there's a lot to be learned, which was really interesting. Maybe look at it in another light. And I agree with him.
Was he Australia's last successful coach?
Yeah, I think so.
Was he the 2001 World Cup?
Yeah, it would have been, yeah.
We should get into a bit of rugby because the Rugby World Cup is next month.
Yeah.
Australia's kind of coming good, are we?
Well,
Yeah,
I saw did you see that
late
photo I
though.
put up
That
of
was
Pocock?
Pocock. Yeah.
Mate,
His rig is
he's such a
insane.
freak.
He looks crazy. Did you see that photo?
Yeah, I saw that, and there's a couple other ones floating around where he's like mid-pass, so everything's like contracting,
Yeah.
and he just looks like almost unhealthy lean.
He's so
just
jacked.
ridiculous.
He
He
has
looks
like
like
giant
he should have
hands.
good endurance, like because he's that lean.
Yeah,
Is
I
he
know.
a 90-minute play? Wait, how long is the game?
Well, he's just had a big
80,
break, hasn't
yeah.
he, from playing?
Yeah, he's had a big break. He gets injured too often, but yeah, I mean, he goes super. He's just a freak athlete, man. Like he can go a whole game because he's a freak
Is
athlete.
he just getting injured because he's constantly in a deficit?
Yeah, I don't know. He's a bit unlucky with injuries,
How
but
heavy is he?
He's just one of those guys. He's just a beast.
bit over 100, I'd say.
Fuck. And
Yeah.
he's that shredded.
Yeah, dude. He's
And he
not that tall. Either.
Doesn't live in the gym, obviously.
What when you say not that tall, like 6 foot or like less?
Yeah,
than
it'd be
6
like
foot?
maybe 6'1".
Fuck, that's still tall.
I mean, it is, but like for
No,
a
compared
union
to, like,
player,
Kevin
that's about as
Nesmith.
short as you're going to get.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
Bro, the wingers and centers
Yeah, that's
are
a good
Stevens.
point.
mate,
so
the
is he
wingers are
now.
like 110 kilos and 6'4" these days. It's ridiculous.
Well, I know he's on the out, but like for example, how big's Israel Folau? He's got to be close to.
He's
triple
very
digits.
tall. He's 6'4", I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be
He'd have to be
6'4".
close to 100 kegs.
Yeah, I think he's over 100. I think he's like
Israel,
102,
yeah, Israel.
102,
He'd be
Do you
big.
guys remember Brett Hodgson, the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tigers fullback? Like,
Yeah.
how the hell did he survive?
Yeah.
Well,
How was he the best guy?
I
Like,
tell
how
you
was
what,
there not
it's
just
pretty funny.
another guy
Luke
around?
Keary's pretty small.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
like
he's
really
tiny.
small.
Yeah.
But he's
Well,
not Brett
relatively.
Hodgson.
Yeah.
Yeah, not Brett Hodgson small. Because there was a few guys like that, like Matty Bowen,
Yeah.
the
there's a few of
fullback
them.
from North Queensland.
True.
Yeah.
Who else was small for league? There was a lot.
I don't
Back-
know. I
back
always
then,
But
felt
they
that
are the exception rather
Yeah.
than the rule.
Matt Utai was always in my eyes and still is the gold standard of builds for a winger. Just like 5'2" and just quads like tree trunks.
Yeah.
There was just that year the Dogs won the season. I think it was 2004, 2005. Just every single game, just straight down the sideline. It was impossible to push out. Just that.
Matt Usyk, because he was a stump.
Yeah.
He was a running
Just
stump.
like real low center of gravity.
Except then when they played the Cowboys in the semi-final that year, Matt Singh literally leapt over his head like 4 times in a row for tries. Do you remember that?
I vaguely
Got
remember
absolutely towed. Anyway.
My headphones. So your headphones are both working?
They're pretty good.
Oh, you got to plug into here then.
All right. Have you checked the sound on Twitch to see that we're good?
Mate, we're rolling anyway.
Let's get into this.
Oh, that's so much.
So I'm a
now I
budgeting.
There we go.
I'm a budgeting man now. Actually,
Are
that's a
you?
lie. I've just got savings for the first time
Very
in my
good.
life, and like I just feel like I know you've been
a nice
ranting
feeling.
on about budgeting quite a bit lately, but I thought it would be a useful topic for us to get into because outside of mental health, budgeting is probably the second issue that affects most PTs that I know.
Yeah,
How many
totally.
PTs, me and Oscar have both witnessed this phenomenon. They're about 40 years old. They've been earning well over 6 figures for the last 10 years straight, knocking out 40, 50 sessions a week, and then still just a financial shit show, like absolutely nothing to show
Scary,
for
man.
it.
It's pretty scary. And like people are just taking so much cash that on paper, no one's giving them a loan for a house or anything.
And they're like,
Correct.
I'm not paying tax, you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's
You
like, oh
definitely
shit.
got it. Yeah.
I kind of need to pay a bit of tax. Yeah, it's kind of
And,
scary.
and we
man.
still get like a lot of benefits. Like I've just recently got a new accountant, and my old accountant was fine, but my new one's more of an advisor. And myself and my partner, we've been going for a loan, and he's been so good at like he knows exactly the benefits you can get being a sole trader, working for yourself, and getting a good accountant. It's
Mate,
like
well, I mean, yeah, because both my wife and I are in the industry. I mean, when like we obviously pay rent where we are, we don't own our house, but you can claim a fair bit of that floor space and and you know utilities and all that kind of stuff as
doing
home
like
office stuff. Yeah, I mean, you can claim quite a lot. So.
Yeah.
Legitimately, you actually would use a home office. Whereas
I
me,
spend
it's-
way more time in an office than on a PT floor these days. So
oh, for sure.
but yeah, for sure. I mean, there's like tons of stuff you can claim. So I don't know. It's but I think no one ever really thinks about that when you first get in the industry because a lot of us are pretty young and naive.
And I suppose you want to get to you want to be earning money first, so you're focusing on
you
that.
just focus on that, right?
Yeah.
Like you just focus on like, okay, I want to kind of break above 50K a year sort of thing.
Which it took me a lot longer than I thought.
Yeah,
for that.
it does because you do the math in your head. You go, right, if I charge, $100 a session and I do 25 sessions a week, I'll be rolling in it.
But
And it
that's-
doesn't work that way.
No, it
You
does not work
calculate your
that
life
way.
in sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
you're like,
exactly.
this thing costs
Exactly.
that many sessions.
But even
Yeah.
when you have those 25 sessions, you might be doing 20 a week.
Well, that's it, exactly.
Like if you average it out, people are away.
Yeah, and then there's like attrition, and then there's random holidays, and then there's like, oh shit, I got sick and I couldn't train people for 2 days, and then it's like, I mean, there's an endless amount of shit that happens,
Yeah.
as you know, and then and then it's GST, and then it's like, I mean, at one point between my wife and I, we were paying, $440 a week each in rent at a gym.
Yeah, that's
That's
a
know
lot.
what I
so much
mean?
before you put food on the table.
Yeah, like we're paying 40K
Yeah.
plus in rent alone at the gym between us.
Like you
And then
spent so much
GST,
time there. So it's
and
like
then,
you're getting perks.
Yeah, but it's like all of that stuff just adds up so much.
Yeah,
Don't
for
realise.
sure. No, it is interesting. And,
Well,
there's
and that
a
was
lot
one of
to
the
get through.
biggest things that I related to on your budgeting podcast as well, because I've just noticed like my mental health has improved so much. I've never had
massive, hey?
savings my whole life, like to the point where like obviously I was broke as hell, but it was fine because I was living at home with my parents. But like I just would never check my bank account because it would just
It's
have
too scary,
that much
right?
anxiety
Yeah,
around
I
it.
know.
And even now I'm at the point where I force myself to check it about 3 times a week. But
Yep.
like hopefully what I can work to is I just maintain my savings is the point where I can just fearlessly check my bank account every single day. Like that's the dream.
Well, my first goal, and look, I lived at home. Like I've only just been out of home for just over 3 years, and I was lucky. I was so frugal at home. You don't realize how much money you save. Like it's not. You think, oh yeah, rent, but it's like it's so much more
It's a
than just
lot.
rent. And like I was not earning much money at all, but I still managed to save quite a bit because you're eating your parents' food, all that sort of stuff. And it just I lost where I was going with that.
Something savings.
Yeah, oh, sorry, that's it. I was like, and my first goal was always just to build up enough savings that if I somehow couldn't work for like 3 months, I could pay my rent, I could pay, gym rent. Obviously, there's clauses vary to gym, which gym you're working at, but you could pay a bit of food, your health insurance, phone bill, all that sort of stuff. And then that's when I knew I could move out. And then even then, I waited like another 3 years.
Yeah. I mean, if you can do it, that's not a bad idea because, as you said, you save on a lot. It gives you a pretty significant head start if you can build up like a bit of an emergency fund or whatever it is. But I agree. Like the mental toll that takes on you, sort of subconsciously, you have no idea until you kind of resolve it, and then it's just like, holy shit! Like,
Or just the shame
so much better
when one of your clients is like, "Oh, is it all good if I pay you next week?" And you're like, "Actually, no. I have $0 in my bank account.
Yeah.
I was actually just about to ask if you could go to the ATM and get me cash out. I'm not gonna pretend that I haven't done that."
Yeah.
Shout outs to Joe Tor, keeping me going.
A good client.
Oh, just those early days clients, and they probably just have no idea in retrospect how much they kept you afloat.
Yeah.
Just those people that actually rock up every single fucking week.
Yeah.
Or maybe they do cancel, but they reschedule, and you're just like, yes.
Yeah. And you can only tell them that now that you don't need them to cancel. You're like, mate, you don't know what you did for me. Because you don't want to put that pressure on someone. Like they're actually suffering from a stomach bug, and they're like, gotta go in to support. Anyway, I want to get back into rugby quickly.
Yeah.
You've got a whole podcast on this, what we're speaking about now. So check out Luke's podcast.
Yeah.
On rugby.
No, on budgeting and all that sort of stuff.
I missed that episode.
Yeah. So I didn't do the rugby one.
What are you thinking for the World Cup? Obviously, New Zealand.
This is the most open World Cup that's ever been.
Really?
Yeah, it's really exciting because New Zealand are still a favourites, but they're no way an automatic win. There's no way. There's no way. Anything could happen. And the top 8 countries in the world have never been closer. So it's pretty wild. It could be anybody in that final. So yeah, man, it's going to be really special. Like, and Australia's kind of starting to come a bit good this year, and we're always pretty good at a World Cup. So I'm kind of hoping that we go further than what you'd think.
Well, we were in the finals last time. Right?
Yeah, for sure. And that was also not a great lead up for us, and we still managed to pull it out at World Cup time. And we tend to. So we'll see what happens. But there's just going to be plenty of good rugby. Like, I can't wait for it. It's going to be so good.
So if you could pick who's going to win,
I'd still pick New Zealand.
Yeah.
Then a dark
and who's
horse?
the dark horse?
The Irish.
But I mean, this is the thing, right? So the Northern Hemisphere teams, you could go, right, Ireland maybe. I think
Wales
they would
are playing all right?
Yeah, they'd probably be the dark horse, I'd say.
Horrible
Ireland.
accents. Don't want to hear them on the mic.
Yeah. But, like, it's kind of swapped. So, like Ireland would beat England, and then the next week, like, England would beat Ireland, or beat Wales, and then Wales would beat Ireland. And then you're like, I don't know who's the number one here, the top dog. Like, they're all kind of beating each other, depending on the day. So, and then Ireland on their day have beaten the All Blacks for the first time in a long time. So you don't know. Like, you don't know what's going to happen, which is really cool. So
I still can see just All Blacks just flogging everyone, or like keeping it competitive and getting to the final, and then just like
that's the
making it a boring game, putting 40 on it.
But I mean, I think they look more fallible than they have in the past. Like, I think the World Cup where they were at home, there was the greatest amount of possible pressure there could have been on them, but they also turned up every game and embraced the pressure and played. I mean, that team was just phenomenal. I don't see that there's going to be another team like that in a long time. Whereas now it's kind of like, there's a few players that aren't quite in form. Like, sometimes they get a little bit rattled, and they're not quite the same team that they were back in those days. So I feel like they're more fallible than they have been in the past. But still, just, I mean, the amount of depth they have. Some of the players they're not taking to the World Cup are like world class.
It'd be good to see if they could have a B side in there as well.
Mate, it would be insane. It's just as good as the A side.
Would it just be an all Blacks final, like potentially?
Oh, potentially it would. I think it comes.
Australia would have something to say.
I mean, but they are at a position where they're picking player combinations based on who they're playing against and what the game plan's going to be. That's where they're at. Whereas, like, in the case of Australia and some other teams, it's like, let's just put the best, like, 22 players we have on the park, and like, they'll hopefully do the job.
Yeah, whereas they can actually be like reactive to their opponent.
Well, they can go, right, we've got 5 possible viable center combinations that we can use at any given time.
And we've just got 1.
Well, we got maybe 2. So it's like, yeah, but it's ridiculous because they got so much depth. And they've already left, like, players at home. There's a guy, Nani Laumape, who's a fucking freak. Like, freak show. But he got left at home because he just doesn't quite have the versatility of some of the other players.
It's funny that they brought Sonny over. Like, he's not young now, and they obviously see a lot of
Well, that was like,
there.
some people were saying, maybe Sonny's time is done. But I'm telling you, he's a once-in-a-generation player. So he's someone who could break a game open by himself. And if you're playing in a semi-final and it just takes him doing one of those offloads to get a try away, that's going to potentially win you the World Cup, you know?
Sonny Bill's on keto again, so I reckon he's going to be going to
Is he really?
Yeah, he's back on keto. He went to visit the keto guy, and he's like, let's fucking do it. Let's get fat adapted.
The keto guy, I know who you're talking about.
When is Ramadan?
I think it's already passed. I think it's like earlier in the year because Khabib's fought recently, which suggests that Ramadan is well and truly passed. Yeah, I think it was at least 3 months ago.
Because I think there's a few Muslim players in the Kiwi side. Not many.
Terrible having
but
a World Cup for that time.
Oh no,
year.
maybe
I'm not aware of maybe
they're Mormon. Sorry, maybe they're Mormons.
I'm not sure.
I could be wrong. I should actually fact check that. But it would be hard. But then I suppose all other Muslim nations aren't rugby players. Like there's a few rugby sevens team from Muslim nations.
Is Lebanon got many?
Yeah, they've got a rugby sevens team.
I think rugby's rising in places like Afghanistan and Iran, but they're definitely not on the top stage
not on the world
yet,
circuit.
So
yeah, you go your Dark Horse Island.
I'd probably say so, but I mean, who knows, man? Honestly.
Well, they were ranked second in the world last year, weren't they, Ireland, at a time?
Yeah, the rankings at the moment are a joke because Ireland were on top. So what happened was, like, New Zealand lost to Australia in Perth. And then I think Wales were number one for like 24 hours before someone else overtook them. And then New Zealand were back on top. And then Ireland barely won a game. And then they ended up on the points becoming world number one when, like, clearly New Zealand were the best team in the world.
I think they adjust them a little too regularly, right? You should maybe just like...
Yeah, it's just the way it works obviously doesn't work because everyone was just like, well, obviously the All Blacks are the best at the moment, but they're ranked like second behind a team who's like barely won lately. So we'll see what happens. So technically Ireland are world number one. I don't know if that's true at the moment, but...
I don't know if they need that pressure heading into
Yeah. So technically, they're not on a sheet of paper. If you gave it to a non-rugby fan, they're definitely not a dark horse.
No. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, there's nothing separating the top probably 6 and maybe top 8.
Yeah,
could all beat each other on their day.
No, I'm actually keen. I'll tell you what I was not keen on last night. The fucking Boomers. Did you guys watch that? The basketball.
So we beat USA and then we lost to Spain.
Yeah, so we beat.
Is that right?
So look, it's a very undermanned American side.
Did he just eat shit?
Chris Goulding missed a few threes. Paddy Mills played well.
Beef with Chris Goulding.
Yeah, I was gonna make. Now that we've interviewed 2 guys in that squad though, so we don't. And Jock Landale also follows us, so I can't go too hard on Goulding.
Yeah, tell him to pull his head in. There's a reason.
No, he's a good player. He's a good player.
To beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, so
didn't one of them like pin him down with the chair while his mates like kicked him?
Yeah. He gets in a bit of heat, but no, they went into double overtime.
Clearly not just us.
They went into double overtime, and then Marc Gasol, who he did win with the Raptors this year, so he's a beast. They're big man. He just destroyed us in double overtime. But we had a lead by 14 points at one stage.
Really?
And that was like end of the third. And then we just fell apart.
But so we don't have Ben Simmons.
No Ben Simmons, no Dante Exum, but we have like Joe Ingles, Paddy
What's
Mills.
The other guy who was sponsored by Powerade for a bit? Bogut? Is he still
Yeah,
playing?
he was in there.
Oh, so he plays for Australia.
Similar thing. Like they had a lot of calls go their way, Spain, and the same thing happened in the last Olympics. I think it was the last Olympics. So Spain always get favourable calls over us.
Right.
From what I understand, what I read this morning on social media.
Yeah.
And also what Andrew
reliable source.
Yeah, correct.
Basketball, racist game.
But anyway, so we play for the 3rd spot tomorrow night against France, who I thought would beat Argentina to make the final against Spain, but they didn't. So now Spain versus Argentina.
Yeah, right.
But Spain have a lot of guys, NBA guys in there as well. Whereas Argentina, I don't think they have. They might have one.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, it was cool though. But a lot of World Cups going on. Should we get into the? Oh no, I got a question actually first.
Yeah,
I've suffered from the man flu this week,
and
aside from getting adequate sleep and hydration and turning vegan for the week and finding Jesus.
Yeah.
What some good ways to get rid of the man flu?
That's pretty much it.
Echinacea is garbage, right?
Like
there's not a lot that works very well. If you can, there's actually something interesting. Like if you can catch it as it's multiplying, like as you're like just barely detecting symptoms. If you use zinc acetate lozenges.
It can do.
It can stop it from going full blown.
But apart from that, you just.
But apart from that, you got to cop it, and you got to sleep well, and all of that jazz.
Fuck,
I copped it. Is there also something about acute doses of vitamin C, or is that nah?
No, that's like the naturopath's response to everything.
Oh, dang.
It's like take vitamin C until you've got tap ass, and then dial it back a bit. I'm not joking.
Oh, wow.
They say that all the time.
What
And
is something you
it's like,
can
why?
consume an acute dose of that won't make you shit your pants? That's what I want to know.
Water?
Not a lot. Not a lot. It's not worth it
Even
if you don't
water.
shit your pants, right?
Even water.
yeah.
So on one of Just Fly Sports, Joel Smith's podcast, I was
Yeah.
talking about tendon health, and one guy was
Yeah, yeah.
saying a dose of vitamin C with
Glycine or collagen, right?
with collagen
Yeah.
pre-jump, and now
Yeah.
pre-jump exercise can help.
So the guy who did that research, Keith Barr,
Yeah, Keith Barr.
Very-
It was him on the
very
show.
bright. Was it?
Yeah.
he's a very bright man.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of work on, like we talk about mTOR all the time and how it's like involved in protein synthesis in the muscle. So he did a lot of early work on that as well.
Okay.
So like done some really cool stuff, but the vitamin C level of that doesn't have to be very much. It's just permissive. So you don't have to take like heaps of vitamin C. It can be a really small amount.
I just had an OJ with like the collagen.
Yeah, that's
in.
plenty. That's plenty. So I think what he does for like his kids and stuff is he makes little Ribena gummies. So he makes the gummies out of the collagen, and then he uses Ribena, and there's enough vitamin C in that for it to be permissive.
That sounds a lot easier because I always forget the orange juice, and I don't want to pay $8 at the convenience store for it. So I just end up drinking water and collagen, which tastes like shit.
Does it really get in there that quick?
Yeah, that's the idea.
Supposedly.
So like it's supposed to just perfuse, like it's then floating around in the blood,
For the
right?
session.
And then you're obviously jumping and stressing those tissues, and the blood flow around there at that time is supposed to increase the collagen synthesis in the connective tissue.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's pretty cool. Pretty handy for like rehabbing purposes, or if you're an athlete where that is like a major consideration, like if you're doing a lot of jumping or, basketball court, like hard surface, change of direction, that could be handy as well. Yeah,
Well,
it's pretty cool.
Did it for a good month, and my knees did feel good, and I haven't been taking it. But I think squat volume, if I squat and jump a lot in a program, that's bad. That's really gets the tendon in my knees. I
I'm
need
not
to do one or
surprised.
the other.
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to load management, right?
Yeah,
like
that's
energy
exactly
prevention
right.
is just like it's load management.
Yeah, I
So-
told John, my coach, and he was like, "Oh, let's just not jump and squat at the same time." That's
Yeah,
probably
yeah, it
better.
makes sense.
But
And
also,
he was
John,
right.
let him believe.
Yeah, I
if
know,
he
John.
sold
Come on,
himself,
he's too much of a cynic.
that's just become an increasing sort of theme in my life. Just like I'm just letting I used to be like ruin it for my clients when they were feeling
Nah,
good.
you gotta let it go.
Like, nah, science says no, but now I'm just like, let it go.
Is it making
Yeah.
you feel good? Let it go.
Yeah, totally. Well, there's, we've spoken a bit about power of belief before, so I
mate.
think.
Yeah, we have.
I'm fully gone down the other path now. I'm like, are all injuries a social construct?
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
can you believe yourself to get cancer? There was
Nah, but dude,
what's that
like-
Domini, the guy.
DiMartini.
Yeah, DiMartini. He
Yeah.
spoke about
Did
something.
he cure cancer by positive?
No,
thinking
he
or
said
something?
this lady was detached from her kids, and like she was a bad mum earlier on, and she got cancer, and then that made the kids visit her, and he was like, "Well, you've just given yourself cancer to see your kids," because she really wanted to give.
Whoa.
She
That's
really
gone
wanted to
deep.
see her kids, and I was like,
Look, I hope he's right, but
"There's,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like, yeah, I hope if he's right."
doesn't that guy just live on a
So
boat?
a
Like
lady,
that?
a lady once told me, because I got bad allergies, I was sneezing my head off, and she's like, "Allergies?" I'm like, "Yeah, bad all the time." And
Oh,
she
you
goes,
just want mum to come up and
no,
wipe
she
your
goes,
nose.
"Well, you won't get cancer." And I was like, "I'll take that." I was like, "I'll fucking
Right.
take it." I didn't
Okay.
even ask her what.
Yeah.
Why or what was
Yeah.
serious. I was like, "Sweet,
Sweet. No
never
dramas.
get cancer."
Yeah, good.
So obviously, there's absolutely nothing to that.
No.
Damn.
Totally not. But yeah, this whole like cancer, it's like it's such a broad classification. It's like saying an injury. It's like, well, what kind of injury? What caused it? Or, it's like there's different types of cancer that have different mechanisms and different treatments and all that sort of stuff. So.
People still can't wrap their heads around aspartame. Like, I explained it to them.
Around
like,
what,
the
Angus?
Dose, aspartame.
What's
Did I
that?
say that right?
Yeah,
The
like-
sweetener.
I think the Americans say
Oh, okay.
aspartame.
Sorry, yeah, aspartame then. Or
I've always
aluminum.
said aspartame. Yeah, aluminum, yeah.
And then I think what maybe fueled the conspiracy though is the fact that it was just so untrusted that a lot of soft drink companies removed it.
Yeah, totally.
But then everyone took that as like, see, it's giving everyone cancer. They got rid of it.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, it's
They
just 'cause
knew.
you're all
They
kicking up a
knew.
stink.
Yeah, I agree. It's like definitely one of those things. It's probably I might get into a bit of heat saying this, but I think it's probably the same with something like glyphosate, like the pesticide.
Is that in the Roundup thing?
Yeah, that's Roundup.
Oh, okay, yeah.
yeah.
Because that's it. I was just more prone to be like, yeah, they would just put a bunch of chemicals in that that give people cancer. But then, yeah, I guess it's the same sort of trap that I've fallen into.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of evidence that it might cause a little bit of extra risk of cancer. Yeah, but it's like I think the main risk is with agricultural workers who are exposed to it all the time.
Oh, okay. So
For
they
us,
have a legitimate
not so much.
maybe
But
claim.
I mean, it's been like banned in the EU and stuff now. So people go, see, they knew, they found evidence, and it's like, well, the evidence still says that it's actually safe for public health. But
yeah, but look, the EU, people were dying building soccer stadiums over there. Yeah. They're not worried about human health. I'm sure there's another reason.
But I mean, it's along the same lines. It's just like, well, it's kind of validating people who had these big conspiracy theories when the evidence is still not very conclusive on that. So who knows?
You just got to go in with a good attitude, right? Because if you perceive it as potentially a carcinogen, higher likelihood of getting cancer.
Well, maybe. I mean, yeah. So like, there's heaps of interesting stuff around that. So there was like one study they did where they took, so they did DNA testing on people, and they've got a few gene variants that they know are associated with better aerobic performance, and others that are better associated with like satiety and appetite control. And yeah, probably. And so they did these DNA tests on people, and then they like put them on a treadmill, did some aerobic tests on them. They measured subjectively how hard it was, and then also objectively how well they did through a variety of mechanisms. And then they told the group randomly, as part of the group, okay, either you have bad genes for aerobic capacity, or you have good genes for aerobic capacity. And it didn't matter what their actual genetics were. If they were told they had bad genes, they performed worse when they retested them, and it felt harder. And if they were told they had good genes, then they did better, and it felt easier, regardless of what their actual genes were. So, like...
Well, that's the whole thing, right? Why we're seeing now more white guys in the NBA. We're seeing African-American swimmers, because it's like, so even like I was speaking with CJ about athletes being good into their late 30s and some even early 40s. Look at Brady. It's like, once you're shown it's possible.
Yeah, I agree.
Or you're genetically fine.
Well, it's that 4-minute mile thing, right? It's like
correct.
As soon as someone breaks the barrier, then all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah. It's huge. And we spoke about it.
I get excited when I see weightlifters in their 30s hitting PRs. I'm like, all right, so
yeah.
we've got a bit of time here.
I'll tell you what, so a question someone asked us is, who, in our opinion, is the best athlete of 2019, which we will get into. But I actually Googled it, and it was like Messi, Ronaldo, Tom Brady, and like the top 10 were all in their 30s. One was Brady, was in his 40s. Federer, Nadal, Virat Kohli. And it was like all 30s. No one was in their 20s. I think Mohamed Salah was 27, and he was like number 12, the striker for Liverpool.
It's pretty interesting. Actually, the Olympia is on today for bodybuilding, Mr. Olympia. And Dexter Jackson's competing. And
is he like 50?
I think he's like 49 or something, man.
That's
and
awesome.
he just looks the same as he did like 10 years ago.
Just traps in an 8-pack.
Yeah.
It's so insane.
The blade.
He's nuts. He's like 50 years old. Are you kidding me? To look like that.
Even, with everything, it's like goes so much more than that.
Totally.
I wonder what his old man looked like if he had
I wonder.
genetics.
Oh, he must.
Back
but
to the thing.
Nonetheless, I mean,
it's Coleman
can't walk these days, so...
Yeah, correct.
Have you got a pick for this year's Olympia?
I haven't been watching that much.
Rolly Winkler, I saw a shot
He's
of
very
him.
big.
He's on that crazy Middle Eastern shit.
What's the deal with so many athletes moving over to the Middle East?
I think they're just really investing in sauce over there, among other things.
It's got to be, but there's something.
There's some CrossFitters there too.
Well, like, okay, so...
the chick that got
Next
second
level.
at the games, not that saying she's on gear, but she's over there.
You can say it.
No, I actually want to get her on the show. She seems pretty cool.
Is that Icelandic chick?
No,
is that the one that always wins?
Kiwi chick. So Tia got... Oh, no, maybe she got third. No, she got second. So it was Tia... I'll pull up her name. And then the Icelandic chick, not the one that usually is up there.
Sigmund Stoddard or...
Yeah, neither of those. They got...
Something
one.
Dodder.
There was another one that got third.
Yeah. No, well, so one of the guys who did go over to the Middle East...
Jamie Green is her name.
Yeah, right. And improved a lot was Brandon Curry. And I've always liked Brandon's physique, so hopefully he does well. He's got a chance.
I thought you were going to say Brandon Curry because of the horse scene. Generation 9?
Yeah.
Do you know the scene we're talking about?
The horse scene of...
it's not Brandon Curry.
No, it's...
he doesn't fall off the horse.
Is it Dennis?
Is it?
Is it?
No. It's...
Dennis Wolf?
Fuck, I'm having a massive mental blank.
I thought it was Curry.
No, he's not competing anymore.
Damn, what's his name? That is probably my favourite scene where he's like, I love horses, but I can't get injured. And he's so stiff on the horse.
Yeah, his legs don't even bend to try to like re-grip the horse. He falls off it like a Lego man.
The scene is all time.
Yeah, it's very funny.
Is it Generation Iron 1?
Yeah.
Way too
Did
long.
the same guys who made Generation Iron movies, did they do the Callum von Moger documentary?
I'm not sure.
It
Probably.
made me want to kill myself.
Someone told me that was good.
Branch
Warren.
What?
Branch Warren, yeah.
It's literally the worst thing.
I
Not
didn't watch
even a
it.
movie I've ever seen. It's the worst thing I've ever seen.
You want to know who told me? Scott Kennedy.
Bro, he's like,
I love Scott.
It's
but
just
fuck,
gross.
He
He's-
would like that.
he's like, oh, I had all this muscle, and now I got injured, and now look at me. He's just all skinny. It's like, is this what this is about? Like,
Yeah.
you just tore your bicep and like fell off a rock.
Well, I got opinions about that. It's like, listen, you make money off of your body and you're trying to do you know how he tore his bicep?
Yeah,
rock
doing
climbing?
the tandem bicep
No,
curl.
they try to do a tandem bicep curl with
180
like,
kilos.
yeah, with too much weight on
And
it.
it's funny because the other guy
And they
was
did
like,
it
are
the
you sure
no,
this
but
is
they-
a good idea? It's
Yeah,
like, fucking
but then they do it the first time and he goes, oh, my arm kind of hurts. And they go, oh, let's try again. And he does it again. He tears his bicep off the bone. It's like, mate.
He played too much
No,
league.
but it was the other thing was it was like a week before he got his big film role where he was meant to play Arnie. He was like, I tore my bicep.
Sorry, like, you make your money off of looking good and you're doing that stuff. Like, come on.
I hate it when people where I follow them for their physique and then they try to be something more than that. I'm like, no,
That's all you are to
why can't you be comfortable with that?
But no,
No,
it's
yeah.
Let him
is it, like,
develop.
be
Let him
more than
develop.
that as a human, but as far as like
No, yeah, I
online,
know what you
I don't
mean,
need
yeah.
all of you online.
Yeah.
Start a separate page for that. Like I just want to
Sure.
see the rig sometimes.
No, I know.
Yeah,
I know
I get
exactly
you.
what
I
you mean.
get
Or
you.
like maybe they just lose a follower in me, and that's okay. Like
Yeah,
I'm
but you
not-
still stick around. You
No,
give
do
them
what you
time. You
want,
give them
But
time.
like
You give them time to correct themselves before you
that's
give them
like
that unfollow.
I used to follow Breon, the guy who wins the
Yeah.
classic division. It's way too much positive energy coming out of that guy.
Exactly the
An
same for me.
outstanding
I used to watch him all the time, but then it was just like, yeah, it's just too much positive
He's
fluff.
beaming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that like you love Stephen Selly's stuff? He's real.
I love him.
So we have this dunker that we've had on the show years ago, and he is super positive, and he did his first stand-up, and he bombed
Really?
hard. He was so nervous, but he put the whole video on YouTube, and he watched it, and you saw his reaction, and just like the outcome of it is so, it makes you feel good. It makes you
Yeah,
feel like
right.
if you did something like that, if you had any other problems in life, nothing matters because it puts he said it put everything into perspective for him in a way.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah, it's interesting. It was hard to watch. Did you watch it?
That sounds
I
difficult
watched
to
it
watch.
with the sound off.
I'm not sure I'd be able to do that.
So I know him now. So we chat quite a bit, and when I see him
Yeah.
online, and it's fine to watch. I'm glad he put it up, but
I
he
respect the
bombed
hell
hard.
out of anyone just having a crack at that because I've thought about
Yeah,
it a few
totally.
times and I drive so far out of town.
Well, we want to
Totally.
do a live show and like with you or a few guests in a pub, and I think
Yeah.
because like I always have this blind confidence, and I think if I'm nervous, I think you're nervous in certain situations for the podcast. We just dumb it down and it gets us through it. So I think that would be fine, but to get up and do stand up, like
it's
you
different
spoke
when
in
it's
front
your
of people.
audience
Yeah.
though. Like when you had your recent presentation with the muscle doc.
Yeah.
But then it's interesting because I've heard the boys from Melbourne Strength Culture commented on this, or maybe it was Dean McKillop and Will Crozier after their seminar. Like sometimes when you're talking and like if there's no reaction after it, you're like, shit, am I kind of bombing here?
It's hard.
Yeah, what was your experience like?
So the issue is, like, we had a room of 50 people, and that was capacity. We could have had probably 80 or 90 in there. And when it's an audience of that size, there's going to be enough variability in there that you don't, like, you're going to present something, and it's going to be ringing true for, like, maybe half of those people, and the other half, it might fall completely flat, and they might not get it, or they might think what you're saying is stupid or whatever. And so that's really hard. When it's a group of 12 people and you know they all work at the same gym, if you're doing something like that, which I've done quite a lot of, that's really easy because you just know exactly what you're going into and you know what level to pitch it at. But a room like that's tough. So yeah, you got to kind of, you know, you got to kind of just roll with it
Just
when
grit your
you're up
teeth.
there.
Especially like once you've blown their mind a few times, they're not going to continuously be like, ugh.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you can maybe get that reaction once or twice, but then they're just going to be so just like,
But in the end,
Yeah.
how many like people can only take away so much from that? Like you
Exactly.
can take notes, but you'll remember.
No,
like,
exactly. You'll
3
remember
big
maybe,
things,
yeah,
maybe.
you'll remember maybe 10% of something that's said
Yeah.
like live. You know what I mean? So
And that's 10% on the higher scale. It's like 1% for me, 10% for you.
yeah.
So it's like there's a lot of common denominators in the middle.
Mm.
So you want
Yeah,
to
it's a
hit some
tough thing.
questions?
yeah, I heard you were, I don't know.
I got some too as well.
On the things you changed your mind about podcast, you referenced cooking up some homebrew pre-workouts in the George Street staff room.
Yeah.
What was the most potent thing you made?
Well, I used to just mix like everything.
Would you just get tubs of like raw beta alanine, like raw
Yeah.
caffeine?
Yeah. Yeah. I ordered it off this US website, and so I'd get like these 12 white powders just like shipped to my door. And then I went and got these micro scales and got them calibrated so that I wouldn't like overdose with some like caffeine, for example, give myself a heart attack. And I used to just literally mix them up in the locker room at George Street.
And you got some good results?
Yeah, I mean, it was all right, but I totally, like, the active ingredients in that would have been like the creatine, the beta-alanine, and the caffeine actually doing
all the
anything.
Classics.
Everything else probably did fuck all, but I was still trying it.
Would have you passed a SADA doping test?
Yeah, that would have been sweet, but like...
Even on the caffeine front?
Yeah, I didn't think I went overboard with the caffeine because I tend to prefer getting caffeine from like a coffee or an energy drink or something. But I mean, it didn't taste good, man. It tasted so bad. It tasted so bad.
It makes you think what they've got to put in it to make them taste good.
But I mean, I think that's half the problem, right? Is like just getting a product that actually mixes well and tastes all right is literally 3/4 of the battle. Well, they've all got the same shit in them, really.
I know you've been critical of proprietary blends, but one area where I kind of look the other way is in a pre-workout because I'm like, I don't want to know what's in there.
Yeah.
And Jimmy was
the secret sauce.
He was because Jimmy's deep in a prep. He's low on energy, calories. He's smashing about 600 milligrams of caffeine before he even knocks out his first session for the day. But he was he went on a website like stimulants.com or something, and there was one on there that was the top-rated pre-workout, and it was just 8 different proprietary blends. So they literally have to disclose none of the ingredients on the label. And one of the descriptions was it had a distinctly meth-like feel.
That's what you want deep in a prep.
So proprietary blends, there's a time and a place for it. Maybe not in your post-workout shake, but if you're just trying to get revved up.
Maybe it was just C4. Wasn't that real red hot?
Probably.
Mike Rogers got done for that, a US
nothing.
sprinter.
I'll eat that out of the tub with a spoon. It's nothing like OG Jacked. The first pre-workout
Jacked,
I used to get that stuff.
How'd you find that? It never fucked you up?
Jack or Jack 3D?
Jack 3D. Whatever, dude.
It was Jack.
Jack
You're
3D.
right.
Yeah. Nah. I found it all right.
Yeah.
I don't really remember anything being particularly mind blowing.
I got into Craze, and that was one that had a lot of tradies failing their drug tests for amphetamines.
Oh yeah. I remember that.
It was good.
That was like the DMAA stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that would have been
highly
alright. I never had that.
Well, you can't. What can you buy now? Like, you can't buy the old good C4 anymore, can you?
No.
I don't know.
Not the real good stuff. I don't.
Yeah,
think.
not original.
No, they've
C4.
still got C4 around. Like
it's not the same.
At the corner store near Lyft, they sell the pre-made ones. So,
really, but it's not the original like 2000 and I think 10.
No, I wouldn't be.
But it's annoying. Even the canned ones, I looked into it. They're only 200 milligrams of caffeine, which is pretty weak. I don't know. I feel like 400 is
That's
like
fair
the
enough.
standard these days.
That's the standard. It's just going to keep climbing.
I saw one's 410, but then I wonder if maybe they relax some regulations. But then I put it back on the shelf.
How much is in Red Bull?
Because I think that's only like 160.
80, I think.
Yeah.
A White Monster's about 160, which is about a double shot of coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's
So
like
Red
a shot of espresso is like under 100. So.
But does coffee have something in it that blunts the stimulant effect of caffeine?
No.
Or did Jimmy misquote you?
It would have been green tea probably with theanine.
Oh, okay. And that offsets some of the...
Yeah, it makes you like less jittery. It's like got some anxiolytic effects, which means it makes you less anxious. So, yeah.
Green tea does.
It's a compound in there called theanine.
Can
you actually buy it.
that?
Yeah, you can buy it as a supplement. So actually...
One you might recommend?
Yeah, for sure. I kind of keep that on hand because,
Interesting.
if you go a bit overboard with it or have it a bit late in the day or something, I mean, it's not going to offset it. Some people say it offsets it and it makes takes away the stimulant effect caffeine, which it doesn't do, but it does make you less like jittery and anxious.
You reckon first stand up, bit of caffeine, bit of that shit.
That could work.
And then
that's actually not a
smoke a joint.
Yeah,
because then you could have a nice feeling.
You could.
Next question: who's better at guitar, you or Will Berkman?
Berkman by a mile.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah.
He was on drums last night. I saw on
I'm not
someone's
very
IG
good at
story.
guitar.
Oh, really?
I can't imagine you just being shit at guitar.
No, I'm like average. I'm real average. I don't practice that much.
Berkman's come a long way.
But
the last few years.
his family's into music, right? So I think he's been playing quite a lot from when he was very young, whereas I haven't.
Dude, I've only met Will like a handful of times, but for some reason when people put up the fat photos of him, that just
So
really hits me on the right chord.
It
Like,
is
that
so
cracks
funny.
me up.
Yeah, he looks very funny as a fat kid.
Yeah, he looks like
that's how he's meant to be.
He looks like Squirtle, that Pokemon.
Yeah.
But he has thick
Yeah.
hair.
It's very funny.
The stories of his babysitter, like cooking up full trays of lasagna for him to eat, it's just so funny. Like, I wonder if his parents were aware of like what that person was doing, just like encouraging. It's like, finish the whole thing, like be a champion.
People aren't gonna know who he is. Like, we're talking about a specific area. We're talking about Sydney fitness people. If you don't know their names, just look up Will Berkman, Berkman. On he's been on this show on Instagram.
He's creating some content with you, isn't he?
Yeah. So the first month of my membership site, he wrote an article for me, which was really good. Yeah, on hypertrophy programming. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, he's not an idiot.
The
he's
membership
not
site's separate from your advanced physiology course, right?
Yeah, advanced physiology is like 12-month course, and then the membership is like a cheap monthly content thing. So yeah, it's like good. Much more accessible.
And is it easy to digest?
Yeah, so that's the goal of it, is to make it more easily digestible. Whereas the advanced physiology, like, it starts off a little slow, but I don't pull punches by the end of it. So,
have you ever thought of, like, when you start to release more and more content, having restricted content to people that need a certain amount of context, context, because you don't want people saying it was too hard when you know that there's good information.
Well, that's the idea with the advanced physiology, is it starts off giving them all the information they kind of need to build up into the more advanced concepts, and it's going to take a longer amount of time and a bit more study, whereas the membership site is literally like you can jump on as just a general fitness enthusiast or as a trainer and you'll get something out of it.
Okay.
And it's not going to take you more than like maybe 2 hours of time a month. Something like that.
That's pretty good.
So that's kind of the idea with it. Whereas, the advanced physiology will take a lot more commitment. So it's for people a bit more serious, like fit pros, that kind of thing. So.
And how long's it taken you to sort of get the content out? Or have you?
The original advanced physiology probably took me 3 years total to do.
Of how many hours work do you think? Hundreds.
I don't know. Yeah, but there's like 70 hours of video in there.
Oh man, that's crazy. Have you just talking to a camera?
It's like PowerPoint lectures and me on camera a little bit.
That must feel good to put something like that out there, like that much work.
Yeah, it's great. It's really cool. And I mean, but that was the thing. There was more and more I was writing on it, but like no one's getting through it. So I was like, look, I don't want to keep making more and more and more products and eventually being like, well, there's 10 different things you need to buy from me. I just kind of wanted a membership site to be like, listen, I'm going to keep making content, but I'm going to make it more accessible and I'm going to put it on the membership site. So like you can just benefit from it instead of being like, well, here's 10 different things you got to buy from me. It's like, fuck, here's just a cheap monthly fee. Have at it. Because I'm going to keep making content probably forever, you know, so
just keeps
I need somewhere
up.
to put it.
Yeah. No, that's interesting.
So what is all the budgeting for if you're going to make content forever? I thought, are you not one of the early retirees? Or
I don't think I'll ever stop working, mate. I have a real problem with not working. I'm trying to work less.
Oh, really?
I'm actually, my wife makes fun of me. She says I work all the time. I'm always at the computer reading something or whatever.
But you enjoy it though.
Like I do.
Do you get burnouts from time to
time? But I feel stressed if I'm not being productive.
For no reason.
Yeah. Like if I haven't spent, 6 hours fucking reading textbooks or research papers or making new content or whatever on the computer, if I haven't done anything that day to kind of move myself closer towards where I want to be, I get so stressed it's ridiculous. And I'm trying to actually just embrace that and be like, listen, on a Sunday, the other Sunday, my wife went out and did some stuff with some friends, and I was like, I'm not going to work at all today. And
what did you do?
Very, very difficult.
Masturbated like 50 times.
I was so bored. Yeah.
You need Carl Dobbs' mentorship, who we had on 2 weeks ago. He deals with it. He actually spoke about
work-life balance.
Yeah, work-life balance.
You just need a giant veggie patch.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Another form of work.
One of the questions we got was, what are your hobbies outside of fitness? And obviously rugby and guitar, we've covered
Rugby, guitar, coffee. I like reading. Yeah, I like cooking. I don't spend that much time cooking. I've been baking a lot recently, which has been really bad for me because I just eat it all within like 2 days. So it's not good. But yeah, that kind of stuff I enjoy. We're going to go traveling a bit more next year, actually.
Well, you can do it on the road now. Are you doing any face-to-face?
10 hours a week of face-to-face.
So not much.
Not a lot.
Anymore.
They must be good clients. Like, it must be hard. Yeah. Like, a shitty client couldn't get you out of bed.
No, like I'm just mates with most of them, and a lot of them have been, I think some of them have been with me for 4 years plus.
Yeah, nice. And as they drop off, you're not worried.
Quite often, so
if they drop off, you're just like, I won't pick up new clients.
Yeah, that's essentially how it's going at the moment.
And then see ya.
Yeah.
Then you live that nomad lifestyle.
Yeah, so I think we'll spend a bit more time traveling. Like, there's going to be more seminars and stuff coming next year, which
international seminar. That'd be a cool one to
there'll
cross
be a couple. So nothing concrete yet, but when the time comes, it will be announced. But yeah, just kind of doing a bit more of that stuff. My brother-in-law, so my wife's brother, is having a kid, and that'll be like the first grandchild in the family. So we're going to go over to Sweden for like a few weeks just to hang out when the kid's born next year. So that'll be cool. Yeah, but doing more stuff like that I think will be fun. And so what I'm playing with is maybe getting a nice video camera and kind of just documenting the travel and fitness stuff at the same time.
Dude, a vlog, you'd kill
some
it.
sort
doing
of physiology travel show.
Yeah, something like that. But I think it'd be cool if it's like transitions and stuff are like, you know, traveling to different countries and showing like, well, this is how I'm eating and training there, and maybe some other informative stuff, but also showing, you know, where I'm visiting and stuff. Would be pretty
just
cool.
a vlog.
Yeah, just a vlog pretty much.
Actually, no,
trying to
I'd
make it
watch
a little
the
bit
shit out of that.
educational. Yeah.
I only watch vloggers and sport highlights now. Like when Beck's there, we'll watch shows, but I follow like 7 different vloggers, like some dunking, some fitness, some are just fashion, and then I just follow those brothers that are just complete jerks. Like they're real rich kids, but
cars?
He's a legend, that guy. They're 2 brothers from Toronto, Kai and Levi Bentley. I actually like them, and their dad is Sir Lee.
Oh, right.
He used to be one of the, what was that ABC cooking show with all the Asian dudes?
Oh, Iron Chef.
He was one of the Iron Chefs, the
Whoa,
original Iron Chefs.
really?
And they live in LA now. One like raps, but it's heaps auto-tuned, and they're like
I miss Iron
biased.
Chef.
And
Yeah,
it's sort of,
great.
they
That
spend
was a
so much
phenomenon.
money on clothes, and then after I watch that, I feel like I don't need to go shopping ever again. Because
you've kind of vicariously.
Because they say, they're super honest, they're like, I wore this once. They're like, what a waste of money. But they've got the money to spend.
Yeah, that
Who do you watch for vlogs?
I don't really watch anybody, to be honest.
Okay, that's a good thing, because then you have your own idea of what you want to put out there.
I have watched a few people, but I don't know.
It's very mind-numbing.
I think a lot of the transitions and music and stuff that has become like the way you vlog, I find I kind of roll my eyes a little bit.
Meta,
I just don't really.
It's
vibe
like
with it.
beautiful Peno scenes, and then like
Drone.
everyone has the same
Drone
sound.
footage, and then it's got some
Yeah.
weird EDM thing going while you do it. And I'm just like, ugh.
Skip.
Especially in Fitspo blogs, that real bright feeling EDM. I cannot.
Yeah, that's the worst. I don't
It's
like
always
that
paired
at
with
all.
like a HIT workout series.
Yeah,
See,
exactly. And then
that
it's
hard.
like someone doing ropes in slow motion. I just don't care.
Oh, see, I don't watch those. Like Steven Selly, the guy we spoke about bombing, he's a dunker. He raps his own
really?
segments. Yeah, so
Okay,
he's
that's cool. I
He's
like
as
that.
good. He's is actually really
Yeah,
good.
But that's
fair.
creative and cool.
That is
Yeah.
creative. Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think
that
it's
makes
just
cool.
become so overdone. That's all.
yeah.
I mean, not that it's bad, but it's just like I think it was people like like Casey Neistat and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, sort of probably started doing a lot of that, and he's super popular. And that then everybody from like 2014 onwards just started emulating that, and so now it's just ubiquitous and it's
you
kind
gotta
of
do your
boring.
own thing.
Yeah.
Ubiquitous. That's a very good.
That is a
word.
good word.
Rolls off the tongue. Wait, how did you meet David Gray?
Because they trained at Lyft, him and Kira, his missus.
Oh, so you just ran into him there.
Yeah, we're good friends with him. When we went to Ireland, we stayed with him for a
That's
while.
what I mean, because that's how I got onto
Yeah.
him. Because I did a couple of Skype sessions with
Yeah.
him. I think we'll be getting him on soon, hopefully.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
mate,
gotta
that'd be
get him
wicked. They're awesome people. They're such good people. So hopefully, when we travel next year, we'll catch up with them again. But yeah, very, very cool people. And
You've been pronating your foot?
yeah, trying
That's
to.
Weird, hey?
Yeah, been trying to. But
I feel so bad.
I did a session with him while I was there.
Or like wrong. I shouldn't say. It feels good, but
Yeah,
like
it doesn't feel correct.
I drilled knees out into myself so hard. Like even still,
know,
I'm just
man.
like, oh.
Oh, it's been years of that stuff, right? So yeah, but cool guy. Be cool to have him on.
Are you, because you're obviously super smart, you know a lot of different techniques. Are you trying to be a bit athletic, or is your training still strict bodybuilding?
I'm actually trying to move into being more athletic because I feel like the longer I've trained as a bodybuilder, the worse I've moved.
Like what do you see as athleticism and a level of athleticism you want to achieve?
It's gonna exercise only using sandbags.
Yeah.
Like, am I going to have to compete with you soon, like throwing down windmills in the dunk on the basketball court and running track?
Not very much into basketball, mate. So probably
neither
no
am I.
fear of
No, I am.
that. But no, I'd like to run some. Like, look, I got these ongoing back issues, and like my shoulder's a bit bung, and all this sort of stuff. And like, I can work out fine in the gym around it, and I can still grow muscle and stuff fine. But I still just feel like if I wanted to go for a run, I can't really do it and pull up okay afterwards.
Have you ever been a good runner? Like, do you have?
I used to run
technique?
a lot. That's when I first got into like fitness and stuff. I ran.
What, distance or just for passion?
Yeah, distance. Well, like, so I was a little bit. I was a chubby kid, and then I started sort of exercising, and I got very into like running as a means to basically burn calories. And then I kind of wanted it for the fitness for rugby as well. But I just got real obsessive about going out for a certain amount of time to try and
run a
burn
certain
energy.
and
And that kind of, I was very competitive with myself over that stuff.
Running is great and extremely addictive.
Yeah, it gets super addictive. So I would love to do more stuff like that. But honestly, I tried running and like I'm so much heavier than those days. I think in those days I was like 80 kilos and I'm like 98 now. So
way too heavy.
And
it's
just
hard
so
to
lose
different.
muscle, right? Because like it's not just a matter of getting lean for you. You'd have to go catabolic if you really wanted to get in like healthy running shape. Yeah,
but so I've tried a few things, but it's just the back copped it a little bit and all this sort of stuff. So, but I mean, I'm actively working on that now. So yeah.
And that's just rugby.
Rugby, would be phenomenal to play that again. I'd love to.
But the back wreck. That's what.
Yeah, I had an issue where I was deadlifting. So I was really into powerlifting when I first started lifting, and I was doing heavy rack pulls and just felt a little twinge in my back. It wasn't anything major, but I just never really rehabbed it properly. And at the time, I was very much into, embarrassingly, West Side stuff. So and being completely oblivious to the fact that they lifted in gear, and and it's very much about being in hyperextension, knees out, all that kind of stuff. And so my entire lifting career, I've been into that, and so now, I found when I kind of kept having these ongoing back issues, and then it was like, okay, I need to rediscover how to feel when I'm in flexion again, and like how to actually posturally tilt my pelvis and all that stuff. And I like couldn't do it, and I have no proprioception around it. So I was just working really hard to combat that. But it was like, I had this back twinge, and then I never rehabbed it properly, kept lifting on it, kept probably doing something that was aggravating it, and it's just always been an issue for me since.
But well, Angus and I are looking at two recent converts of PRI, so let us, which I think you've mentioned it on the show before, cool. But it just went whoosh.
Yeah,
and now Angus and I are like, ooh,
and then Will Crozier kind of alluded to it again.
Yeah, and then like, we had Carl on. He was like, calm down, boys.
Yeah, look, it's interesting, but I'm still a bit like, well.
There's a religion to it.
There is.
John Hruska could fully start a cult if he wanted to. He's very charismatic.
I think some of it is pretty cult-like, but I don't know. There's something to it, and there's a lot of smart people I know that feel that they've benefited from it, Crozier being one, and Jamie Smith from Strength Culture. But I think those guys recognize that there's more to movement than just those principles.
I think it's what's cool about it is that they're a group of people who are finally acknowledging the rib cage. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, cool, let's look at that as well and just fit that into our current framework.
Totally.
And now we're not ignoring like just a big chunk of the human body.
Yeah, I agree.
And like, the breathing thing, it's like, I think it's something we've always deep down felt. Like it's always been in the yogi circles and circles and things like that.
I agree. I think it's different modalities like talking to each other. I mean, I first discovered this when it was like the gymnastics thing started getting a bit more popular, and then it was so counterintuitive because all bodybuilding and powerlifting is like extension of the lower back and of the thoracic spine, and then retraction and depression of the scapula. That's traditional lifting with weights. And traditional gymnastic training is the complete opposite of all of that. So it's kind of like, well, you've got some athletic freaks here that are doing the opposite of what all lifters are doing.
Yeah, and they're still strong.
And they're still strong. They've still got a lot of muscle. They move better than we do. So there's got to be something there.
But that's also why you were talking about West Side before and how like extension based they are, like, chest up, knees out sort of thing. But no wonder they all love the reverse hyper so much, because when you're swinging through into some loaded spinal flexion, and that's why.
So when I had my back issues, people were like, oh, you got to get on a reverse hyper, and it was like, actually my problem is that I'm in extension all the time. I don't need to be getting on something that's putting me into even more extension.
But then just swinging through the other way is maybe what they're really loving more so than anything.
Totally, I agree with that. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. All that stuff's pretty interesting, and obviously.
But then you have the other people who are probably too cool with flexion, like people who are just like, let me see if I can do a double bodyweight Jefferson curl. It's like, do we need that?
Exactly. No, exactly. I agree with that. I mean, still, if you're squatting under heavy load, you would prefer to be an extension than flexion.
Yes.
Totally would.
Yeah.
You know, so not poo-pooing that. And yes, the correct way to bench press heavy weight is in extension with shoulder blades retracted and depressed. Totally. However, nothing wrong with throwing some push-ups at the end of your session so that you can get some protraction as well.
Well, I think the idea that discs obviously only posteriorly herniate, then that's another thing that mentally scared me off as well. And then I guess my new thought is, well, do they just herniate, not on a daily basis, but like, you know what I mean? Do they slide in and out throughout people's lives?
Yeah, I mean, I think
like
what
that?
we were talking about before with like belief systems and stuff, I think one of the worst possible things that people seem to be really hammered into unwittingly by their trainers and their physios and their doctors is that your body's fragile, and it's not. Like, it's super resilient and it's super adaptable. And a lot of the postures that we get into that people tell you not to do if you have back pain or whatever, it's just like, well, if you look at the loading of it, it doesn't make any sense that you would avoid that. Like, how is sitting in a chair in flexion a bad thing when, like, the force that goes through your joints when you're walking, for example, is way higher? If you're going downhill, the amount of force that goes through those joints is huge, whereas sitting, it's essentially unloaded. You know, so there's like a few logical inconsistencies there, but I just think thinking about your body as fragile and like, oh no, it's asymmetrical, oh my God, like, that's really a bad mentality to have. And I hate that, like, a lot of the industry, both in our industry and in the rehab industry and medical industry, is based on the premise of like, there's bad stuff about your body that we have to correct. Like, I just don't like that. We're not fragile.
As much as I joked about you exercising exclusively with sandbags before, it is something that I have recently been thinking about. Like, I love the barbell, like, from a sporting sense. Like, you know, we've created so many sports that involve the barbell, and I think they're a heap of fun. But then if we are asymmetrical by nature, is that more what's fucking us up? Not the asymmetry in our bodies, but just the fact that we use symmetrical implements for training. Like, do we need a bit more, you know, should we be exploring more things like that? But then again, barbell and dumbbell so accessible.
Is this you dusting off the Viper?
Not yet. No, I would. They're still, mate. They're symmetrical. They're the devil too.
Yeah, not good.
It's only
not good,
Bosu balls and unevenly loaded sandbags.
Slosh bags or whatever.
Slosh bags,
Do you follow David Weck on Instagram?
No.
Bro, you're missing out.
Am I?
He's the guy who invented the Bosu ball, and now he's invented this giant steel ring that you attach an elastic band to, and you just kind of like slug out in it. Apparently, it feels amazing.
Yeah, right.
Because I think he's just super rich now. Just does
whatever he wants.
Because I just realized there's literally like 20 Bosu balls in every single gym.
He'd be
I don't know how he sold it, but yeah, you've got Uncle Weck. He's just
Okay,
you won't learn anything, but like
that's
you'll
his
learn
Instagram
something.
handle, Uncle Weck.
The Uncle Weck.
That's pretty funny.
He wears 2 pairs of glasses. It's he's insane.
He sounds intense.
I mean, like, just back to what we were saying, where I was saying, like, I think I'm moving worse the more I do bodybuilding. I think it's just because it's like, there's no integration with that. The whole point of bodybuilding is like, I want to grow this specific area of my body, and therefore I want to isolate that at the expense of moving everything else.
Yeah.
So like, and in one plane of motion. So it's just like, the more you do that, it's like the worse you move when you need to integrate stuff, and like, oh, I actually need to rotate here, and I can't do it because I've been fighting against rotation for 15 years.
But then you look at elite level Olympia bodybuilders like Phil Heath was a really good college basketball player, and I've seen him shoot around, still moves well. Kai Green obviously does his dancing and stuff like that.
Totally. No, I think
I think that's probably what keeps him feeling good. Just like that's how he's getting his variability in.
Yeah. I agree. Variability is a good way of putting it. Like, more variable your movement, the less chance of like injury and stuff like that.
And creating those weird patterns.
Yeah, you've probably got the interesting questions. I got the silly ones.
Got a couple of good ones.
What is a fun fact that is mildly disturbing?
Mildly disturbing.
That's oddly specific.
Yeah, we didn't get many questions, so I just asked people around the gym. And they were like, who's Luke Tulloch? I was like, doesn't matter. I was like, what would you ask him?
I can't think of anything.
That's all right.
I'll learn something the other.
I'll let you Stuart.
I can think of something.
Well, your clients didn't ask you, so shut up.
No, that was. I was like, just ask the panel.
Ask the panel.
It's always freaky how many germs and shit particles people have on their hands and moustache and beards and stuff.
There you go. Luke Tulloch, stance on washing hands. Still doing it?
I don't wash my hands.
I do still wash my hands. I actually wash my hands more than the average person, because if there's one thing I hate, it's when I get sick, because it usually lasts like 2 weeks, and then I can't record content. I can't train people. I can't train myself.
Fuck, sorry, mate. I don't think I'm
It kills
contagious
me.
anymore. Hence why I've been over
Kills
there.
me.
The what?
Hence
No.
why I coughed over there.
I think you'll be all right. I'll just wash my hands.
No, so I wash my hands always before and after the toilet. That's why I don't get trainers going to the gym. It's like you've just been touching barbells. It's like definitely wash them on the way in.
Yeah,
I could be better with that.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a hand washer at the gym.
But then, see, that's the other thing that stresses me out. Like, obviously, wash my hands after the bathroom and everything. But then the way I see other people conduct themselves, I'm like, it's like looking after the environment and everyone else is like driving a hectic car, throwing plastic out the window. It's like, is it something where we require everyone to be good for our own personal hygiene as well?
Yeah,
like,
possibly.
Are you copying it from everyone else, you know?
Yeah. I know what you mean. I'd say so. Like,
we need some sort of barriers.
Yeah, that's a
live in
good
bubble or something.
Have you got a mildly disturbing fact?
No, but I have an interesting question about protein.
Okay, come on.
So Broderick Chavez, and he was speaking mostly in a context of someone trying to gain muscle on a bulk. He was saying, once you've had adequate protein, you're better off just throwing in more carbs on top of that because you don't get as diminishing returns. Like you get a nice hormonal response from ingesting carbohydrates. But then outside of muscle gain or muscle retention, what are some other reasons for consuming a high amount of protein?
Well,
if any.
I think probably personal preference is a pretty big one, to be honest. Like some people like eating a lot of protein, or the foods they like tend to be high in protein, and then they want to eat more of it. Like that's pretty much it. I mean, there's a lot of important stuff that amino acids are used for aside from muscle protein synthesis, and sometimes I don't really like the reductionist approach of like how much amino acids do we need to maximize muscle protein synthesis because total body protein synthesis is a thing as well. Like your organs and stuff need to synthesize proteins too. So if we're looking at like, well, you only need 25 grams in a sitting to maximize muscle protein synthesis, I'm thinking, well, if I've just been overnight fasted because I've just been sleeping and I need to eat protein first thing, like I'm not going to eat the minimum amount to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. Surely I need more to stimulate whole body protein synthesis. So I'm going to probably eat more, like 50 grams or something like that. I don't know.
I remember Oscar came home one time from work and some trainer there, one of the top dogs was like, you can only absorb 10 grams of protein in a sitting.
You got to give me context. This
nuts.
was about 6 years ago.
Yeah, that was
That
max.
drives
Yeah, a
me
long time ago.
insane.
And the biggest thing I remember in like 2008 when I was competing, like everyone, even Ironmen, were like turning up with the protein shake post training.
Yeah.
And I was like, gotta have it.
I
And I was
know,
like,
I know.
even I got suckered into that.
Yeah, I used to do that a lot as well. Yeah, but
You got more?
I don't think there's much more on top of that. Like, so amino acids are used for a bunch of different things, essentially. Like antioxidant defense, all that kind of stuff too. We spoke about collagen and collagen synthesis before. Glycine's a really big part of that. So getting adequate glycine would be really important in that case. I mean, at the end of the day, the collagen that you eat gets broken up into its constituent amino acids anyway. Yeah. So it just happens to be a rich source of glycine that gets resynthesized into collagen in your body. So, outside of that, I think probably the top end of bodybuilding protein recommendations is plenty for anybody.
The only other thing I kind of wanted to talk about, and I didn't even know if this is going to be a legitimate question by the time I get through it. You've been following Pat Davidson at all?
Yeah.
You see how he went to that Bill Hartman thing?
Yeah.
And I guess Bill Hartman's whole goal is to try to get people to step back and maybe come up with a different framework for how we view the human body. But then I guess what I wanted to talk to you about is how necessary do you feel like that is? And do you think there is a need for a sort of renaissance in the way we sort of view the human body? Or
I think that, I like that stuff. Like, even if it all turns out to be total bullshit or like a big fairy tale, I like it because I like curiosity and I like people thinking outside of the traditional boundaries. Like, I think one of the things that Bill says that is really important as well is that, to give you an example, we think of planes of motion as sagittal, frontal, that sort of thing. And he's like, well, what happens if you're 1 degree off the axis? Is that now sagittal or is it frontal? Yeah. How do you define that?
Well, according to him, there is only the transverse plane.
Yeah, there's nothing else, right?
Davidson's Power Hour, and he made a pretty compelling argument for it. I was like, fuck.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. But he still says, look, it's still very helpful from a conceptual basis to define things and to categorize things for sure. But I do think that we get a little bit myopic with stuff, and then it ends up being like, well, this is just the way things are, and this is the way you do things. Whereas, I do think that creativity and all of that stuff is very hypothesis generating. It's stuff that you can then go, actually, maybe he's got an idea there. Let's go and test it. I like that stuff, and that's what kind of pushes us along scientifically is that curiosity. So I'd never want to stifle that by kind of making fun of it or saying it's useless or anything like that. But obviously you do have to have healthy skepticism and you do need to test claims. But I don't know. I just like the way that he thinks left field. I also think some of the stuff he says about...
to step back that far.
It's very difficult, but I'm glad there's people doing it. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to do it. You know what I mean? Like, some people are really good at thinking a certain way and doing a certain thing. And I'm glad those people are there because, you know, maybe I'm not so good at that stuff, but I'm good at something else. I'm glad that we have people on the fringes doing that stuff. Like some of the stuff he says about, you know, fluid mechanics is probably pretty important, seeing as cells in general are basically liquid. Like, that's kind of interesting to me. I don't know what application that would have, but it just makes you think a bit differently. I don't know.
I'm glad someone's thinking about it because I never would have.
Totally. Well, that's the thing, right? You know, so I'm probably going to just keep on doing what I'm doing, but I'm glad that he's out there thinking about that shit.
Gaze over at what Bill's up to every 3 months.
Yeah.
Like, where are we at with this new model?
Yeah. What you up to? Yeah. So I don't know. It's thought provoking. It's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly don't buy a lot of it. I think there was, you know, some of the stuff that Pat says as well. He seems pretty bright, but some of it is also a bit like, I'm very like, I don't know about that.
He's quite intense with his delivery method. It's like his way or the highway.
I mean, I watched the thing that he had a recent video about like addressing your powerlifting pains, and one of the things he did was he compressed.
Oh, I saw that with Sean Noriega.
I tried it. Yeah. So did you try it? What did you think?
It felt nice, but then lots of, like I said, you never know how much of it is like, is this because it's just like a new thing? I definitely wanted it to work.
Yeah.
But then I can see how, like, from doing that, your hips would splay out over time.
Yeah.
And then there's only so much you can adduct, and I don't know if that would be enough to sort of push the hips back in. Was that his idea even though?
Yeah, I don't know. It might be, but like from my perspective, I'm just going, well, you're just having a temporary nervous system modification, which is the same as what foam rolling does, the same as what stretching does, the same as what massage does.
But like if you foam rolled yourself with a tree, because you got what I liked about it is you got a bit of weight. I'm like, that'll do something.
Well, I agree, but I think that's what it is. It's doing something, but it's probably not the reason that he's saying it is. You know what I mean? Like it's like when people say, if I do Chinese massage, it's breaking up scar tissue, and that's why you're getting more range of motion. It's like, well, it definitely works to temporarily increase range of motion. That's testable and like that's uncontroversial, but it's not breaking up scar tissue. Yeah. That's not what's happening, but it's still doing what it's supposed to do in terms of improving your range of motion. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? So I think there's just an issue of that rather than why he's saying it is doing what it's doing.
I think a lot of it as well comes from he's trying to help all these different people in all these different communities, performance athletes and powerlifters, but because he isn't strictly one of them, he can't necessarily fully put themselves in their shoes and understand their needs, because I think all that anti-extension stuff that he points out is like quite useful for rehabbing powerlifters, but then just some of the ways he describes and cues some of the movements, I'm like, I'm not sure if he's in powerlifting enough to maximally apply what he knows to powerlifters, and maybe even the same for field sports athletes.
Sure.
But I think it's still, like you said, it's definitely some interesting stuff, and some of it is very cool.
But you know, I think he would probably put his hand up and say that it's just him spitballing, you know? And he's like, I think in that video he even said like, this is just my, you know, I'm trying to think of why this might work the way it does or whatever. And like I said, I don't think it's because it's changing your structure or compressing you like side to side when you've been splayed out from your lifting all this time. I don't think it's like that was
a bit odd to me. Yeah,
I found that to be really strange, and like pretty bro sciencey. But like I don't hold anything against him for that. I think he's just trying to figure it out. Yeah, that's all.
But that's like, even I like people when they're just trying to be thought provoking, as long as they give you some solid information.
Old Angus
John Hruska was doing a PRI presentation at the NSCA thing. It was like 2015, and I remember at one point he asked the audience a question. Everyone's like murmuring to themselves, and they look to him for an answer. He goes, "Nah, I don't know either." But like,
Exactly. Yeah. It's interesting.
It's very always wild when you hear a guy like that, and they're like, "I don't know." They're like, well, fuck, what do you want me to do about it, mate? Like, I don't even understand the things you actually know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. We've been going for an hour and 9.
Oh,
that's really flown. I feel like we just got into it. Yeah. Let's talk about
I agree.
Who, and this is for all of us, in your opinion, is the greatest athlete of 2019 so far?
John Jones. He's doing it right. He's taking drugs. He's knocking people out. He's getting some dodgy calls. 2019 is the year of controversy.
Look, there's no wrong answers.
About that life. There you go.
There's wrong answers in the eyes of me, and that is the wrong Angus.
He's just the man. Well, he's not. He's an absolute scumbag.
Yeah, he's
as far as like an athlete that I'm glad exists outside of him hitting
he's
that
a villain.
Woman. Like, yeah,
he's a villain.
And it just him being a scumbag transcends just every aspect of his life. Like, and
he's probably the biggest dirtbag of an athlete. Oh, there was a tight end for the Patriots that
outside
killed
of ones
someone.
that are like killing their partners.
But he killed
John
gang
Jones,
members. Yeah, he's up there though.
Obviously, some athletes have done some bad stuff. But
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's a really tough question.
It is a tough question.
I don't feel like I don't keep up enough with like
Heaps of sports.
track and field
Yeah.
and
Look, there's
basketball
nothing
and
happening
stuff
there.
to like give a really great answer to that.
I would say for me it was Kawhi Leonard because he went to a team for 1 year after a lot of controversy at San Antonio. Went to Canada, the Toronto Raptors, and he literally put the team on his back and did it by himself.
Yeah. That's
and
impressive.
I think that in that elite level of competition, now we're seeing basketball as a more worldly sport slowly.
Yeah.
That, in my opinion. But then next year,
Is he
Kevin
the guy that
Mayer,
did
our
that
boy.
laugh?
Yeah, I'm a fun guy.
No, it was like the
Did you see this? So he just said, like he literally went to the team for 1 year because they traded him to get out of a contract because he hated the other team he was with, and then he won him the flag. He can eat for free. People are like, you can live in this house for free.
Yeah, right.
Every cafe had signs out the front. Kawhi Leonard eats free here, and he was like, "See us." Signed out to LA. But then he led. This is what I love about him. He led the Los Angeles Lakers on until the trade deadline that he was signing there. So much so he like had the GM ready to call him, and then it was like, oh no, he just signed with the Clippers. So then they missed out on signing other guys.
How good.
Oh, so
he's like
just a
this
troublemaker.
mastermind. Yeah. But then his sister did bash an old lady to death for her purse last week.
Really?
Yeah, but I think it's his stepsister.
So he didn't hook her up with any cash.
I don't know. He seems like a pretty good guy.
Because I was just thinking about it. If you get filthy rich, like you would give money to your
well,
family
most of them
around
will
you so they
go
don't
back
beat
and like
people
buy
up.
their mum a house and stuff, right?
Well, some of them, their parents are like, you owe me this money.
Yeah.
Well, all right, then who's your favourite athlete at the Rugby World Cup?
Artie Savia.
Who's he play for?
So he's an All Black. He plays for Hurricanes.
Okay.
And he's a fucking machine. He's such a freak. I mean, he was always a freak. So you know Julian Savia, the wing?
Yes, yeah.
So he's his
He
brother,
got in a bit of
younger
trouble,
brother.
and then the Crusaders coach brought him down and sorted him out.
So, well, yeah, he ended up not playing that well, and he went over to France to play, and he was just playing shit. And the president of this French club that just buys everybody was like, I don't know who we got, because it wasn't Julian Savia. He's clearly sent a clone over. He was saying this in a media conference. It was so funny. But Artie, he's a machine, man. Talk about an 80-minute player. It's like one of those guys who, like, he gets tackled and then he just keeps running as if there's no one there.
Yeah.
And just keeps pumping his legs and just keeps going. He's just a fucking machine. He's in form. He's the player to watch for the tournament.
Really? So him over Bowden
There's
Barrett?
a quality that everyone
He's a
respects.
freak.
It's post-contact meters.
Yeah.
Mate, exactly. He's a freak
That's
show.
what the sports is.
Massive respect for him. He's got a
Post-contact
huge
meters.
engine and he's just playing really well. So
Okay, nice.
He's one to watch.
He's one to watch.
For
Oh,
sure.
sweet. I got to get on our man Nick Gill again for a longer episode
that
post
would be so
post
good.
World Cup. I'll definitely reach back out.
Surely
to him.
he'd be a bit more inclined to share some.
Share some secrets. He was
Yeah.
a closed fucking book in that interview.
I'm sure.
Oh,
there's
really?
Yeah.
What's he doing? He's definitely doing some Louis Simmons style West.
I want to get him.
They'll be walking out onto the field with bands on
Well,
them.
basically, what he gave away is that they were doing the very basic stuff well, and that he sort of alluded to that there was some sort of secret when they were on the road.
Right.
But then he sort of
90 hip lifts
played
and
it.
sissy squats.
Yeah, he played it. He played it sort of very low key. But yeah, I want to get him on again, and I will get him on
that would
after
be
the World Cup.
pretty fascinating. I
Yeah.
reckon.
If they
'Cause
win.
he-
If they lose, he'd be like, oh,
Nah,
don't
still
worry
get him
about
on.
it.
He'll come over for maybe that Western Sydney.
But I
line
think
there.
they'll be changing coaching. I think coach will retire after the World Cup for them.
And then do you think the
Fine, yeah.
Crusaders guy will go? Been waiting for years.
I think their assistant coach is next in line, so he'll just step straight into the role. But there might be a little bit of changing the guard, so he might be a little bit looser lipped because it'll just be a bit of a different setup. I don't know.
That's got to be one of the more nerve-wracking times for All Blacks fans, like when the coach changes.
Yeah,
Because that's probably one
I
of the
think he's
biggest,
got to
like,
trust the
things where you can have
culture
a
that they've
cultural
built.
shift,
I think
but-
so. And like their assistant's been with them for forever, so I think it won't be too noticeable.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always interesting.
Where do you get all your rugby? Like, where's your go-to rugby knowledge? Like, you Reddit, you podcast?
The Reddit is very Northern Hemisphere rugby based, so I find it pretty boring because they're always carrying on about these English players that I don't really care about.
Yeah.
Johnny Wilkinson just constantly getting reposted.
No, well, yeah, there's tons of I think Welsh and English supporters that are on that subreddit, so it's pretty boring from that perspective. There's a few kind of good little blogs around that are quite good, and there's a few YouTube channels now that are quite good on the analysis front. So I don't know, I just watch a lot of it. I watch heaps of it. So
I've got to get my KO subscription.
Do you yeah, it's the best.
Oh, see, last night it was laggy as hell for me.
You were saying.
Yeah. So they'll do a 20-minute game or something. So much easier. So I used to watch 6 games a weekend or something.
I remember you were saying.
And
there's what the package
just a
is.
bit painful, but now it's one or two of the big games.
Oh, you were watching 6 80-minute games.
Yeah.
More. Sometimes with I suppose you're in front of the TV for a lot longer than that.
Farney must love you.
Oh yeah, she'd
just tolerate that. Would
yeah. Well, I go to my parents' house, watch with my dad, and then she goes to bed, mum goes to bed or falls asleep on the couch, and we're just there still watching rugby.
Yes, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Southern Hemisphere games done. On to the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
All right, let me give me some more questions, and we'll finish this up.
Yeah. I should have one last troll because I did.
Okay. Here's one. Do you want to finish on a silly one, or do you want to finish on a good one?
I might genuinely be all out.
All right. Do you think porn is healthy?
That's a tough one. To some extent, probably, but probably too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
Not great for you.
Desensitizes you.
Yeah, I'd say so.
What about these virtual reality things when they come full circle? And I'll tell you what, it'll be installed here first.
Probably was the sweet spot for porn when you had to go somewhere to buy it, so you would rein yourself in a bit rather than just
probably. There's literally
it's just you and me,
like your mate's dad's top drawer. That's where I saw porn first.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Where did you intake it first? See, I was like, internet was too slow.
I don't know what prompted me to today is the day I will find porn.
Yeah. That's weird, eh? When does that
happen? See, my mate was like, "Oi, look what I found in Dad's top drawer." I was like, whack it on.
Yeah.
And it was this funny 80s scene, and it started, and they were discussing the placement of a tissue box outside. And then next minute, he's like, "Let me just fast forward." I was like, "No. What is this all about?"
I want to see what happens.
Yeah.
The plot's developing.
And then they ended up having sex over that.
Yeah, right.
That's if you ever thrown on Pirates 2, you're 45 minutes in, you realize you haven't even touched it. It's one of the most thoroughly entertaining plots I've ever seen.
You can watch it on YouTube. I don't know if it's still up there.
Cut out all the
they cut out all the sex scenes. Stagnati's Revenge.
Yeah, it's if you haven't seen it, it's outstanding.
Outstanding stuff.
The lead character, he's the personification of Zaf Brannigan from
Futurama. Very good.
But I think that's what he's like across multiple films. That's just him.
He takes that character with him.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You should definitely watch it on YouTube. Yeah. And then another one is there's the Game of Thrones remake of porn, and the acting side of that is very funny. There's another one that's really good too, because you can search this and it's I think I found that one on Reddit, the Game of Thrones one.
So you got a
you got a dwarf,
really?
you got
guy in there.
Yeah, it's
nice.
It's not heaps low budget either. Sort of like Pirates, how there's some sort of okay CGI.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Don't expect Game of Thrones.
No, yeah. Well,
dude, even Game of Thrones' production is kind of disappointing sometimes. When you see the dragon flying through the air, I was like, nah.
Oh, jeez, you're hard.
Don't get me started on that last season.
Yeah, fired me up as well.
I was pretty critical of people criticizing. I was like, fuck, how much can they really go wrong? But yeah,
it was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
The issue, though, I think, is that they just should have made it much more challenging to take. Spoilers! If you haven't seen it, you should have seen it by now.
You don't bother watching it.
Yeah,
they should have made it more challenging for him to take King's Landing, because the arrow things were so problematic, and then all of a sudden the dragon's
and more suffering for Cersei.
There was a lot wrong with it.
Yeah.
How do you get ambushed at sea when you're on a fucking dragon? Doesn't work.
Yeah, correct.
What were they hiding behind?
Yeah, where's the vision?
Unreal.
You should be looking down.
Unreal.
Yeah. How would you ended it?
Odd shit there.
I don't know. Not like that though.
I just thought I liked the idea.
I mean, the actual ending itself, I didn't mind too much, but the entire season there was an unbelievable amount of plot holes. I don't understand.
See, I wanted the Night King to be on top. I wanted the bad guy to win.
I know, right? Just hey, let's have
some feelings.
End of humanity. Like, there we go.
I mean, it would kind of be fitting for Game of Thrones, where it's just like, we don't give a fuck if you like the character or not. They're gone.
Yeah. So. Or I wanted to see like the last scene was like Bran walking into the dragon's eye, and you saw his eyes switch, and then it shot to the dragon, and it was the dragon's eye switching, and then that was it.
I don't but then that would have left the door open for a reboot.
No, but then nothing. Well, then it's there for like 20 years, but then just end it there.
Yeah, fair enough.
Or like I don't know. Anyway, you no more questions? That was a good app.
That's good.
Yeah, I feel we got through. Actually, we did get through quite a few questions. Yeah, let's
get out of work mode.
And we got to. This is almost in the last quarter of the year. You'll probably be on again before the end of the year to pledge for guest of the year.
Have to do it.
We might get you on head to head with someone else.
Yeah. Duke it out.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like Martin McDonald, yourself, Dean McKillop, and Isaiah Rivera, the dunker. Yeah. Like, people love him. He's so you guys would be the 4.
Tough competition.
Yeah, Martin's coming over, I think. It'd be cool to get him in studio.
He's always on the move.
Do you know what I respect?
He's always on the move.
Israel was out here, and I think Weekly Weights got him on, and he still Skyped him. Like, he's just the busiest guy. Like, everyone wants him on their podcast.
That's hilarious.
Like, credit to him for getting him on, but I love how he's like, sorry, like,
just Skype.
I'm still gonna.
I'm not walking over there.
At least the connection will be more solid because we're in the same country.
Yeah, enjoy that.
That's true.
Oh, mate,
that's very funny.
What you got going on?
Fitness Fundamentals is the membership site. That's kind of where I'm pushing everybody now. So luketulloch.com/membership to check it out. It's very cheap. There's a trial period. Have a go. See if you like it. Keep an eye out for seminars. There's going to be a lot more of those happening next year. And I think that's pretty much it. Hey.
That's it.
Yeah.
Any last words? Yeah, Mr. Worldwide.
That was the only last question I had. But I feel like you probably don't want to. You're really nice, and you're cool with people asking dumb questions because you got all the patience in the world. I was just going to ask, what's a question that gets asked frequently that gives you the most stress? Like, oh no, like, people are fucked if they don't know this. Like,
I think a lot of it is that gives me stress is when people ask me about injuries, like my knees hurt, what do I do? And it's like, mate, how am I supposed to help you with that? Yeah. I appreciate that you think I know what's going on, but I have no idea.
Eat more protein, see if that helps.
No, vitamin C for the tendons.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And then other stuff like, which is kind of distressing sometimes when people will message you when they're on holiday and they're like, oh my God, I gained 0.5 kilo yesterday. Like, what should I do today? Should I walk more? Should I go into a deficit?
People actually message that stuff to you?
Yeah, and I'm like,
enjoy your holiday.
Don't message me while you're on holiday. Just enjoy your holiday. Don't worry about it.
Compete in bikini without just completely just like...
I think people can, but I mean, it's definitely opened my eyes as to the mental state of some people and how, like... obviously unsure and how much anxiety it causes them with this stuff. And I think I used to be in that category as well, but it is pretty distressing when people are like literally messaging you while they're on holiday because they worry that they gained a bit of weight. It's like, don't worry about it. It doesn't define who you are.
Don't message Luke about your holiday weight gain. Just gain a bit more and address it when you come back.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be healthy for you anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the kind of things that
if you perceive the fat gain as healthy.
Yeah, that's exactly.
All right, guys, there you go. Episode 146 in the can. Make sure you probably already do follow Luke. Actually, we've gained a bunch of new listeners lately, and it is on Twitch now. So if you like what you see, go to our IG. We tag him in there all the time. Otherwise, just search Luke Tulloch, TULLOCH.
That's the one.
Trinity's been walking around with those biscuits for the last 10
years. Yeah, we're going home to some yummy biscuits.
Yeah.
Speaking of weight gain.